Hello, folks. This is Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, coming to you with another episode, another part of the Create Yourself series. This will actually be number 2 in the Create Yourself series, and this is a little more slow going than some of our other stuff because there's a lot here to understand, there's a lot here to take in, and I will caution you that if you haven't heard or viewed the first Create Yourself, you're going to be lost. These have to really be taken in order. And when we talked about in our last Create Yourself session was the different parts of our mind and what keeps us and puts us in the different parts of our mind. And this is crucial to understand because until we get control of our own mind, we're not going to have control of our spirituality. We're not going to have control of where we're going. We're not going to have control of what we're doing. And we won't be able to create ourselves. We won't be able to build the life we love or will love or would love. So what we have to do is we have to understand exactly what's going on with our mind. And this is a mind battle. And you basically have two minds, and then you've got a fight or flight system, which almost acts as a third mind, but it's really not. And of course, the fight or flight system is your reptilian cortex, that part of you that says, oh crap, we either got to fight or oh crap, we got to get the hell out of here. And that's too often what we drop ourselves into is the fight or flight. And that's a problem because you've got your analytical mind. And your analytical mind is a perfect record of everything that you've ever received as far as sensory input or experience in your entire life. And when that mind is functioning correctly, it becomes your blink mind. And it will crunch all of that data when approached with any situation or question and spit out to you the best course of action or decision based upon every single sensory input that you've ever received, at least in this life, and probably and possibly from other lives, but I don't know because I don't know. If it's from every life, it's even better. If it's just from this life, every single sensory input you've ever received from the time you were able to receive sensory input, even back into your mother's womb, you can receive that input, which makes an interesting idea and thought about test tube babies. What kind of sensory input are they receiving? Well, I guess they are implanted into a womb. They're not really grown in a test tube, are they? Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. Squirrel. But this analytical mind is a perfect recording of every single thing that you've ever received as far as sensory input goes, except there is a little bit of a problem because the analytical mind can get turned off by what we'll call your reactive mind, and you'll have blank spots in your analytical mind. You'll have just blanks. I call it your life track. It's your life. But there's gaps. What are the gaps? Well, the gaps are when your reactive mind jumped in and shut down your analytical mind. And it's actually a protective device because your analytical mind records everything, feels everything, understands everything. And when you get into periods of intense danger or intense emotional trauma, it's trauma-based. Whether it's physical trauma, emotional trauma, your reactive mind wants to jump up and protect your analytical mind from recording this horrific stuff. So it ends up being a blank spot in your analytical mind, and it's in your reactive mind in a special place controlled by your fight or flight mind. Okay, I know it's getting a little bit, it's really not confusing when you think about it. It's very, very simple and very, very easy. Your analytical mind is meant to be, as Matthew 13:7 said, unmixed and pure, the dove mind. It's meant to be practically wise, prudent, and sensible in your high serpent mind. And we're sent forth like grazers, eaters of what we're led to by greedy, destructive men. And our analytical mind, when perfectly working, will not allow us to go into those places and won't allow us to become double-minded, which makes us unstable, as the book of James said. And your analytical mind is your blink mind. It'll tell you what to do, exactly right thing to do for each and every situation based on all of the data it's received, if it's not superseded or impeded by your reactive mind. And that's what we're going to kind of get into today. Your reactive mind is fed by your fight or flight mind, which really is your low reptilian cortex. And that was there to, back in our development, if you were out there relieving yourself and a tiger showed up behind you, that reptilian cortex was there to not make you have to think about if you should run or not. It just make you, boom, take off, right? Or if you were boxed into a corner and the same tiger showed up, it would tell you, oh crap, I can't run. Let me pick up this club and this rock and fight as best I can. So it was designed for fight or flight, period. And it's not designed to be decision making. It's not designed to be helpful in making any other decision other than to, do I fight or do I run? And typically, in today's world, and typically in your spiritual development, fight or flight are not really the options that you want to have. You want to stay in your analytical mind, your high mind, as often as possible. So what that necessitates is that we take control of our mind. We learn how to use our mind. We learn how to run our mind. And it means that we have to actually clear our mind. And that's what Create Yourself is all about, at least the first steps of it. So what we have to do is, step one is to go through our analytical mind. And we do this a lot when we do the past life regressions with folks. We go through their analytical mind. We find the memories there and the situations there that are less than comfortable, and we deal with them. We bleed off all of the negative charge on those things and reduce them to really chuckles, literally. But those things are not actually the most traumatic things in your mind, because if you recall, the most traumatic events have been removed from your analytical mind, and they're gaps, but yet they're still causing you problems. So step one is we go through your analytical mind, the part that you do remember, the part that is conscious now, the part that you can think back and, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that, and we deal with those memories all the way back to the womb. And then we're going to go and try to find, we have techniques that will find and reveal the gaps, and we're going to look into that reactive mind and find out what those gaps are, find out what specific events prompted them, and then we're going to deal with those events as well. Because here's what happens. Here's why you have to do that. Well, Jeff, if they were bad and ugly and nasty and my mind's trying to keep me from remembering them, why do I want to remember them? Well, here's the problem. Because your analytical mind is recording everything, and that gives you your blink mind to give you the right decision-making process. But your reactive mind is too powerful, and it's working with that fight or flight mode, and anything that begins to look like it might be something like one of the things that cause one of the gaps in the analytical mind, that reactive mind is going to jump up, boop, and you're no longer going to be able to use your blink or your analytical mind, because it's going to shut off, and you'll be in your reactive mind. And unless you're really trained and looking for it and understanding it, it's transparent to you. You don't understand it. That's why you end up, why did I do that? Or why do I always do the same thing? Why do I always make the same mistakes? Because your reactive mind doesn't know any better, and it's the one feeding you. You always do the same thing, even when you know it's wrong. You always make the same mistakes because you don't have enough control over your mind, and you're falling back into your reactive mind, and you're not staying in your analytical mind. And that really is the long and short of it. So we have to learn how to stay in our analytical mind, and we have to learn how to recognize when our reactive mind and our fight or flight mind are trying to rear their ugly reptilian heads. So what we have to do is understand that we do have this thing that will kick in if we don't stay in control of our mind. And it's kicking in, it thinks to help us, but there's very few situations that are fight or flight anymore in our lives. And what happens is it keeps you repeating the same destructive habits. It keeps you repeating the same habits that are not constructive. It keeps you repeating the same things that have not produced good results for you in the past. But it's just trying to protect you, and at least it's saying, hey, at least you're still alive, so I'm doing my job. But it may be doing its job, but it's not doing the job that you need it to do. In short, we need to get in charge of our reactive mind just as much as we're in charge of our, and that will allow us to be in charge of our analytical mind. So the fight or flight mind is the one that stores all of those panics, all of those aggressions, all of those serious traumas that happen to us. And anything that begins to look, smell, taste, or feel like it, it's going to click in. So what we have to do is go in and access that fight or flight part of our mind, that storage. It's literally a storehouse of memories that will prompt actions. And I'm kind of frustrated because I got a nice new microphone and I can't make my stupid computer recognize it. So we have to get in and access the fight or flight area, and we need to handle those things that are in the fight or flight area, because that way, when there's nothing in the fight or flight area, the reactive mind is not going to click in and turn off our analytical mind. So we're not going to get bad data. We're not going to get data that's based on fear. See, your analytical mind is based on every input you've ever received, but we're robbing it because people have said to me, and I've realized that I probably made a bit of a mistake because I probably just made a flat out mistake because I was going from my own experience, and I have gone through and have deactivated all of the problems and traumas from my fight or flight mind, and my reactive mind doesn't kick in, so I'm able to stay in analytical mind all the time. Therefore, I can trust my blink. I trust my blink exclusively, and it's never wrong. Because think about it, it has every bit of every data that I've ever received, and it gives me an answer, boom, just like that. You know, that gut feeling you get. Ooh. And every time you act on it, every time I act on it, it's right, it's true, it's good, because I have deactivated the reactive mind by emptying the fight or flight memory bank, so that reactive mind's not jumping up and giving me bad data. But until you remove the bad input and deal with those until you deal with the traumas and the feelings that are stored in the fight or flight section of your mind, it will continue to throw the reactive mind into action whenever it senses something similar, and it's going to cause you to drop out of your analytical mind, and it's going to give you data from your reactive mind. All the while you're thinking your analytical mind, you're going to get bad data and you're going to make bad decisions. I hate to reduce it to the mundane, but this is something that we can all relate to. Think about it as far as relationships go. Why do I always pick the same kind of people that aren't good for me? Well, because you've got bad data coming from your reactive mind out of your fight or flight memory banks. Every time you get in a situation that's similar, it's like why do I always panic when I get in an elevator? Well, because you had a traumatic episode in an elevator, your fight or flight memory banks kick the reactive mind into gear and try to keep you the hell out of that place because it was a scary place to you before. But then you find yourself walking up and down stairs, which is probably good for you, but you see the point. Anything that's ever been seriously traumatic to you, and relationships can be very traumatic especially when they don't end well. Your fight or flight mind is remembering that, and it's throwing up the reactive mind to block your analytical mind, so you're making dumb decisions again. So the task before us is to, number one, clear our analytical mind of the uncomfortable memories that are in it, because there are still some that don't reach the level of high trauma for the reactive mind to kick in. And then is when our work really happens. We go through their whole analytical, I call it life track. We go through their whole analytical life track. They've discharged much trauma and much powerful emotion. They feel tremendous, but then I tell them, well, now we're just getting started. Because the things you can remember are not the most traumatic things. And the things that you can remember typically aren't the things that are giving you problems. They're not the things that are shutting down your analytical mind and throwing you into reactive mind, which is flawed data. Analytical mind is the highest of the human mind, the highest of the reptilian mind that Christ said we were a hybrid of, for reasons that a hybrid of those two forms is the most successful life form for life on this planet. Well, that's all in part one. And when we drop into reactive mind, we're dropping into the low human, the low reptilian. And that's the part that's not successful for this lifetime. When you think about it, I'll just give you a quick review. The things that are part of the high mind, things that are part of the high mind, you can go back on the last video and you'll see it. The things that are in the high mind are all the good parts, but the things that are in the low part of the mind, which are the reactive mind, I'll read those to you, and you can see what you're acting in. The low serpent mind, territorial. What are you doing with my stuff? Why are you getting into my business? Why are you getting close to my stuff? Why? This is what makes you check your mate's cell phone to see who they're talking to and who they're texting. Dominance. That's also why men, you want to check your lady's cell phone and where you been, where you going, who you been with, who you seeing. Aggression speaks for itself. Ritual displays. Well, I don't need you. I'm a big man, or I'm a grown-ass woman. I can just, I'll just do. Ritual acts of display. That's your low serpent mind. Now your low dove mind fits right into it, because that's the part where you get deceivious, where you start deleting all the stuff on your cell phone, where you start sneaking around. It's the part that makes you untrustworthy. It's the part that makes you do things that expose you to danger, instead of just saying, hey, look, man, this ain't working out. But in your high dove mind, you're pure-hearted, you're pure of mind, you're pure of spirit, you're selfless, you're trustworthy, and you're non-provocative. So that's the mind we want to stay in. And in the high serpent mind, you're very analytical, you're very focused, you got your business in order, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going. You are very shrewd. You got your stuff in order. You're not doing things to unnecessarily place yourself in any type of peril. You got your left brain and your right brain working together in a high mode when you're in your analytical. When you're in reactive mind, you got it working in low mode, and that's why you get yourself in trouble. And it is that fight or flight mind which drops you out of analytical into reactive. Reactive means you don't think about it, just boom, here it comes. And you've heard me say before, if you've listened to me for any length of time, that we need to start acting and not reacting. And I caught myself doing good the other day, and I think this will be a nice way to explain it, and this will be a nice ending for this thing too. I caught myself doing something right. Um, you know how important the YouTube channel is to me now. It's the basis of our work. And I logged into my YouTube channel a couple days ago, and I saw that it said subscribers 0, and I'm like, what? And then I logged into the Creator Studio, and I couldn't get in. Error. If that had happened a year ago, I'd have started screaming, hollering, yelling. I would have panicked. OMG. All of this work is lost. It's gone. I would have flipped my lid. No, I wouldn't have punched the wall, but I'd have been upset. But this time it happened, and I'm like, it says it's an error. I remained calm. My blood pressure didn't go up. I didn't cuss. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just realized, maybe it's just an error. Something is just wrong. And sure enough, it took about an hour or two, and everything was back to normal. And I come to find out that there was some atmospheric anomalies going on, and I talked with Rex Bear at Leak Project, and he also had the same thing. I'm not sure if he had the same reaction, but my point is I stayed in analytical mind. I didn't drop to reactive fight or flight. And that's a great example of what I'm trying to share with you. And it's such a place of power, because I didn't freak out. I didn't waste emotion. I didn't, do anything stupid or say anything stupid. I just said, okay, there's probably something wrong. Let me check everything. Everything's in order. Okay, so there must be just some type of a problem. Let me wait a while and see what would happen. Now, let's bring it down to, again, a base thing, but a very important thing to all of us, except for me. And that would be relationships. And let's put that in a relationship context. You are out for lunch, and you see your man, ladies, over there having lunch with a good-looking woman. You're like, he didn't tell me that he was going to lunch with somebody. He's supposed to be at work. If you drop into reactive mind, you might, depending on what kind of lady you are, you might march over there, grab that chick by the hair, pull her back, give her a smack, throw some water at her, pull out a gun, shoot him. Who knows what y'all can do in your reactive minds. And dudes could do the same thing, so I'm not picking on ladies. But if you stay in your analytical mind, you're like, And even in your reactive mind, you might go over there and just say, oh, well, hi, what are you doing? You might go over there and interject yourself. Because territoriality, because dominance, because a ritual act of, oh, hi, honey. Hi, this is my husband. How are you? I'm his wife. That would be low serpent, and I'll tell you why. That's if you drop into reactive mind. But what if you stay in analytical mind? You see your husband over there. There's my husband. He's having lunch with an attractive woman. Supposed to be at work. Well, maybe he is at work, and maybe she's a client that he's meeting with, and perhaps for me to go over there and to strut my stuff and make myself known as the wife, it could cause that client to think less of him, and he could lose a big deal, which he was going to buy me something nice with, or we were going to do something for our kids or our house with. So I'm just going to stay over here and mind my own business. In fact, I'll go to another restaurant just to make sure that he doesn't get distracted, because this could be a big deal for him and a very good thing for us. That's when you stay in analytical mind. But staying in analytical mind doesn't mean you got to be in stupid mind. Because at night when you go home, you can say, hey, honey, how was your day? Oh, it was great, dear. What'd you have? I went out and I had a nice lunch. What'd you have for lunch? Oh, I forgot to tell you. I met a client for lunch, and she turned over her portfolio to me, and I got a big commission, honey. Let's go to Maui. Beautiful, right? Or it could be, oh, I just sat at my desk and ate. Oh, really? You just sat at your desk and ate? Then you know you got something to deal with. And you still don't pull out the gun and shoot him. You still don't beat him. You just realize, oh, okay, I see. And you put that in your data bank, and, you look for some more data. And you make a correct and informed decision that's healthiest for you moving forward. So again, a crass example, but a good example. And you can think of that in your life from A to Z. That's what Create Yourself does. And that's what those of you that want to work with me on Create Yourself can do. And unfortunately, this has to be done with somebody else, at least initially for probably the first 5-6 months. Then you can try to do it yourself, but I still recommend you do it with somebody else, unfortunately, because it's hard to really go through the live track and pick out the data and work with it unless you have somebody. You need a partner. But you can certainly do it between you and a partner. You can teach each other how to do, you can both be taught how to do it and then work back and forth with one another. I suppose if you were really able to get outside yourself, you could do it in a mirror, but you really do need to work with a partner. So anyway, that's part 2 of Create Yourself. It's deep stuff, but it's profound stuff, and it's revolutionary stuff. And I think if you ponder it, you'll see the efficacy of it, and you'll see that it is true, it is real, and it is completely life-changing. I'm not the same guy I was 6 months ago, certainly not 6 years ago, and it's all because of this kind of stuff, because I am creating myself. I have created myself. I continue to create myself. And cousin, I'm living the life that I love right now, and it's getting better every single day. It's because my analytical mind, my blink mind, is leading the way. Jeffrey Daugherty, Christian Whistleblower. Stay tuned for Create Yourself. If you want to work with me, let me know. Go to the website, my website, jeffreydaugherty.com. This is all in the comment box below. Look at the calendar, because it gets too crazy. Look at the calendar, see when there's a date available and a time available. Send me an email at the email address provided. I want this time, I want this day. Here's my Skype, here's my email. I'll read it, I'll confirm it, I'll get back to you. But we've had some mix-up and some cross-ups because it just has to be done this way. And then I don't charge. I ask for a donation to the PayPal, and we're off and running. So there you go. This is how we create ourselves and live the life we love. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We'll see you later on today with some more great teaching. Until then, be excellent to yourself so we can all be excellent to each other.